Good morning, everybody. Welcome into a Monday edition of the Hoop Hogs Video Mailbag. I'm Curtis Wilkerson with Inside Arkansas and the Pod at the Palace. And if you're wondering what this is, it's where people, the listeners, they ask me an Arkansas basketball-related question. I answer it, and we post one of these every single day. Been doing it for about a month, and we got about 44 days to go. At least that's the goal until the start of the college basketball season. So let's jump right into it and see what we've got today. This comes from YouTube from 94 Hogs. He says, I heard Cal say in an interview that he may have overscheduled. Seems like it could go really good or really bad. How will the fan base handle the potential ups and downs in year one? I appreciate the question, 94 Hogs. I think, well, the answer is some will handle it fine. There will be a loud minority that's probably irrationally upset about it. And Big Blue Nation will be chiming in and they'll be annoying. That's probably how it'll go, in all honesty. But it is interesting. I wonder what the consensus is in terms of expectations in year one. Because you're right. I mean, and Cal's right. The schedule is really tough. No doubt about it. I'm surprised they were able to put together as good of a schedule as they did, quite honestly, because he got such a late start putting that thing together. I do think that they'll be about as prepared as possible to navigate it. Just with those two great exhibition games. I mean, there's something to be said for like working out the kinks against, bad teams or whatever. You can do a lot of that in practice, but I like challenging yourself when it doesn't count. I mean, you can experiment, you learn a lot about your team. You can try some things that maybe you're not sure about and see how it works against, the type of competition you're going to play. So seeing Kansas, who's a Final Four contender, it's going to be great. Arkansas is only going to get better for it. Seeing TCU, who's a bubble-ish team, but they're good, Big 12 team, and you get to travel and get that experience under your belt for that one. When the results don't really matter, I think that's really important. So I think they'll be pretty prepared for it. And yeah, like there's going to be ups and downs. Like Arkansas is not going to go undefeated this season. I don't think. It'd be cool if they did. But I feel like Razorback fans, they probably handled Eric Musselman's mid-year weird slumps like better than he did up until the wheels fell off, last season. But after it became a little bit of a pattern, most people were saying, hey, you know what? This is just what they do. They'll figure it out as long as they're playing their best basketball at the end of come March. That's what you're looking for. And so hopefully people kind of take that same approach. But in fairness, like it's hard not to have really high expectations, even though it's year one. It is John Calipari, who is his own brand. He's an active Hall of Famer. We know that he's equipped with a ton of NIL money, and so he's got a super talented roster. So that kind of sets the bar pretty high to start with. But I do still think you have to be reasonable with your expectations. I mean, he had an empty cupboard and he got a late start. So it took a while to build that roster. There's some concerns about overall depth, although the dudes they have are super, super talented. Like if Arkansas loses a couple of these non-conference games, like these marquee matchups, we talked about them a ton with Baylor or Illinois or Michigan, Miami. Fine. That's not a big deal. And I don't think it should raise any red flags or whatever. It's going to be a process for this team to really come together. Just avoid getting beat at home against a mid-major in Bud Walton Arena, right? Like don't do the UNC Greensboro thing, or hell, Cal lost it at Rupp to UNC Wilmington last year. Avoid that, right? Like, I mean, handle your business there. And then if you even split those four, really tough non-conference games, you're in a pretty good spot, man. I mean, I think they would put you at 11-2 or whatever it would be with a couple marquee wins going into SEC play. I think you could absolutely take that. So avoid the head scratching things. I think you'd be okay there. I would really like to see Arkansas do better in the SEC. I think Eric Musselman's postseason success kind of masked just a lack of success in SEC play, especially the last couple of years there, where they were finishing like 10th or lower in the league. That's irritating, and I get it. It's not the end all be all, but I think Arkansas fans view this as one of the top basketball programs in the conference. And so on a year in, year out basis, like you would like to finish up there. I'm not saying you got to go out there and win an SEC regular season title right away or do it 2 out of every 3 years or whatever, but it'd be cool to be in that conversation for a change. I definitely like the idea of being top 4 and working that double bye. Although I guess that might be changing a little bit. I'd have to go look at the SEC bracket now that Texas and Oklahoma are in. But you get my drift. You want to see them finish it, in that upper echelon of the SEC, because that's the type of program we think the Razorbacks are. That's also something that's meant a lot to John Calipari in the past at Kentucky. Like he coveted winning SEC titles. He coveted having success at the SEC tournament. And that's a change of pace from us, and something that I look forward to, because I get fired up about it, and it means something to me. So I hope that the team kind of takes on that type of identity. I guess the reality, though, is we won't really know how fans will handle things until the end of the season, because what's the deal with Coach Cal? It's been, like it's not translating to March, right? So yeah, I think people could live with some ups and downs if this team was showing steady improvement, playing really well down the stretch, going into postseason. But in year one, you got to make the NCAA tournament, and you cannot get popped by a 13 seed in the first round. You just can't do it. Like that would be the biggest L that Arkansas could possibly. I would rather them not make the tournament at all than make it and get upset by a low-seeded team, because, man, the narrative would just be hard to shake for Cal at that point. And I think that's really important. Like, he needs to erase that stink that's been attached to him in the NCAA tournament for the last few years. And it's wild because he's made several Final Fours. He's got a national championship. You get all that. But recency is recency. Like when St. Peter's happens, when Oakland happens, people see a pattern developing there. And even 2 years ago, they won their first round game, which is nice. They lost in the second round. I think you could live with that in year one, but what you can't live with is being a high-seeded team in the NCAA tournament and losing to a mid-major in the first round. Nope, can't happen. So that would be the number one thing where I could see, even in year one of this, that I think most people understand would be a process. If that were to happen, then you would see a not a majority, but a growing percentage of people starting to become skeptical of, is Cal lost his fastball? Like, what's going on here? Do we make the right move? Not that I necessarily buy into that narrative, even if it happens, but I could see how people would. So throughout the course of the season, I hope people practice patience and understand that it's going to take a little bit of time for this group to come together. Although he did some things in roster building that should streamline it. Like, he doesn't have 7 freshmen that he's relying on. He's got 3. He's got some older guys on the roster now, some guys who have big-time NCAA tournament experience, some guys who've played for him in the past. So maybe they should come together a little bit quicker than some of his other teams. I don't know. On paper, in theory, I guess that makes sense, but we'll see. But yeah, there will be ebbs and flows. Avoid the super head scratchers, right? Like if they go lose at Kentucky, that would be irritating for us as fans. But it wouldn't be the end of the world. If they lose to Alabama at home in Bud Walton, man, that'd be irritating, be an opportunity missed, but it's not the end of the world. Don't let Oakland or North Carolina A&T or whoever come in there and do that to you in Bud, right? Don't go through a head-scratching SEC slate where you finish outside the top 10 or whatever, like Muss was doing. If you come close to expectations in the regular season, which is have a good year, be in that upper echelon of the SEC and get a good seed in the NCAA tournament, you're in a great spot, but then you got to go win a game. That's all I ask. Nothing crazy. I won't be heartbroken if they don't go to the Final Four this year. It'd be cool if they did. But I do think maybe big picture, that's something that you'd like to see happen. You want somebody to get Arkansas to that next level. Mike Anderson elevated the program from where it was. Eric Musselman elevated the program from there. They took the next step, and the next step, obviously, for John Calipari would be to get this program to a Final Four or to hang a banner, which they haven't done in a long time. He's got experience doing, and he's certainly being paid and provided with the resources to make that happen. But hopefully people understand that while they're capable with the roster that they have here, probably not fair to just be boom or bust in year one, right? So it is an interesting question. I appreciate it, and I'm going to be anxious to see just the reactions as we move forward. Like, what if they lose to Kansas in this exhibition? Like, are there really going to be people who freak out about that? I don't know. They sure were excited after Arkansas beat Purdue last year. And so we'll see. But every fan is a little bit different. And there are those segments, those pockets of fan bases that handle things differently. Some will be overly optimistic to where it even gets a little bit annoying. And some are negative to the point where it gets insufferable. And, depending on where you're at riding that wave, that roller coaster of the year, one group is going to be louder than the other. It's just kind of the way it works. So again, appreciate everybody for the interaction, the engagement. Like I said, we put one of these out every morning, 8 a.m. We're trying to do it all the way up until the start of the college basketball season, which is November 6th against Lipscomb. So keep them coming, folks. I've got a profile on my Twitter profile. It's at Kurt Wilkerson _ a pinned thread where you can drop in the comments and throw your questions in there. In the YouTube comments, shoot me a DM, whatever you got to do. If you got a question, throw it out there, and we'll make sure to get to them and answer them. Get subscribed to our YouTube channel at Inside Arkansas. We got a playlist here with the Hoop Hogs video mailbag where you can go back and catch up on all of these if you want to. They're also relevant, kind of evergreen with some of these questions. So it's good stuff, and you guys are making it happen with the good questions. So keep them coming. But it's been Curtis Wilkerson with the Pod at the Palace and Inside Arkansas. We'll be back in the morning. Everybody have a good